My name is Svetlana. Thanks everyone who preferred my presentation to lunch. I hope you won't regret it. Today, I'd like to talk about quality of quality assurance. This is quite a provoking topic, and I hope we will have something to discuss after my presentation. Hopefully, we'll do it afterwards, not during. A couple of words about myself. I work in the company called Kirabind. I've been working there for 5 years. I started as a team lead of test team. It was a small team, and I reached the position of a project manager. In now we're faced with fine-tuning of all company's processes. We're a leading cloud platform of finance management for major enterprises. Our customers are famous ones, the brands ones. You can Google each of them if you're interested. I'd like to start with the picture that is familiar to everyone here. It comes from most of the test books, and it demonstrates the relationship between testing, quality control, and quality assurance. We are well familiar with this picture, and we continue to put testing and quality assurance on the same level and consider it to be an equal process. Sometimes it's easier to tell everyone that I'm a tester rather than explain what I really do in my job. But this is kind of a trap, because if we tell something to each other, we start to believe it. Today I'll be talking about the importance of understanding who we are, what we do, and why we do this. By the way, I like this picture more because it better reflects the relationship between quality control and testing as part of it and quality assurance. These seem to be quite different directions with different methodology, but they both aimed at reaching one and the same goal, that is providing our customer with the quality product. Long time ago, when the world was ruled by rope, waterfall, and a similar methodology, everything was pretty much clear. There was an allocated developers team, there was an allocated test phase. We did the tests, everything was pretty much clear. Responsibility was very well listed, but when Agile, Kanban, and Scrum came on stage, everything got mixed up and became much less clearer. On one hand, being a testers and developers, we want, because we are not only doing margin testing, but we ensure something. We grow, we know what the code is, we learn automation, we have more responsibility areas. The other side of the story is that it is not that clear whose area responsibility it is, where it ends for developers and starts for testers. Very often, even team members of one and the same team do not really get what their responsibility matrix is. Sometimes, even in my experience, I came across the developers who seem that they're doing the same but treat it in a different way. I can say agile appeared not just for fun, because okay, let's think something different because we're tired of using waterfall. Agile appeared as a reaction to market demand. The speed of new software development is so high that it's not enough just simply to meet the budget and meet the timeline and check whether it complies with the specification. Users started to rule the world. That's why all methodologies now focus on market-driven development. The users deciding for themselves what they mean by a good quality product and what features it should have and what kind of features they should be. So first we have to focus on our customers' wishes and not on the wishes of our company's management. Talking about quality, I'd like to ask you a question. What is quality? If we think for a minute about it and each of you decides to provide a definition of what quality is, I bet we won't find two similar definitions even among us. I like Googling everything, and I Googled thousands, hundreds of various definitions. Some of them are simpler, some of them are easier. The favorite one is that quality is the result of care. All these definitions are different, and the more people, the more definitions. But it only proves that quality is a subjective category, and it very much depends on a particular person, on a particular product, and on many other smaller aspects. To simplify all that, all the definitions were limited to three views of what quality is. The first opinion of what quality is, or the first aspect, is an aesthetic one. Quality means elegance. Some of you have come across an attitude, usually developers have it, and designers, interface designers as well. Some of my developers used to tell me that my code is that elegant that it simply cannot have any defects. Let's take an example of a vehicle. If this car is so elegant, it just can't perform wrongly. Another aspect of quality is the manufacturing view. We are more familiar with this one because it is declared by CKB, and it states the quality is correctness and compliance with specifications. I think you all understand what is meant by this. Another view of what quality is what we are aiming at, and something that all methodologies are focused on, which is customer view. Quality means is fitness to use. To bring more chaos to all these definitions, let's focus at the quality levels. We like to talk about good quality, high quality, excellent quality, but the level of quality is as subjective as the quality definition is. How could you clearly say that this product is of the excellent quality or high quality? Well, the more people, the more definitions, and the definitions are varied based on people. Even Facebook provides the product to end users with certain defects, and they are not ashamed of mentioning that these defects are in place. You could Google reports on the internet. There is no criminal thing about it. Very often we understand how much bad quality of our product cost to the company, but very rarely do we think what cost of super quality to company is. We all know that test stage is one of the quality assurance aspects. This step is one of the most expensive ones, and everyone is trying to reduce the budget. It is true, it is a routine and expensive process. The longer we try to catch every imaginary bug, the longer our users waiting for the product to be released on the market. The longer our users use, the bigger market share our company loses, especially when it comes about an innovative product which is still not available in the market and competitors are working in the same field. Each downtime day, each day of delay will cost the market. Competitors may come who do not really care that much about having bugs or not having bugs. Another aspect which is sometimes forgotten is that each next defect costs more. I believe all of you faced the problem that first defects when a new feature comes for testing are detected easily. But if we are given a task to find all the defects, then it takes more and more time to detect another next defect. If a team is advised by the management to find all the possible defects, then their work becomes a routine. The attention span is wider, the focus is not that big, the concentration loses, and it does cost a lot to a company, though nobody ever really mentions the real costs. I think you're aware that it might lead to problems such as the loss of personnel, etc. But you all know that there's one more test, and everyone says, okay, there's one more test. You may think that testing never ends. Usually we end testing under the influence of some external circumstances and not because we decided, well, it's deadline, it's end of the sprint, the manager comes and tells us, stop doing this, now we are testing that. It could be everything except from our internal consciousness and awareness that we have to stop because time has come to stop. We most often stop testing under the influence of external circumstances only. Only few of us follow our intuition and internal understanding that this task should be put to an end. And only a couple of people can really say and explain clearly why they stopped testing and why they refused to perform other tests. A bad thing is that we are not aware why we stop now, why we stop doing this. But it is important to explain this to ourselves, to our teams, and to our management that, okay, we've had enough. I like this quotation. It says that our behavior should be driven by reason, not by compulsion. I advise to read the whole works of James Bach. In the first place, we should understand what we do and only after this act. I'm saying this because there's a concept about good enough quality. I tried to track the data of first ever mentioning of this concept. It was not invented by me, but when following the logics of reasoning, I reached the same idea and found out that such an idea has existed long time advance. So the concept is in a way reference or a response to market demands, which is to provide the customers what they want, but not what we think they want. A product is of good enough quality if it has sufficient benefits. It's a product which has no critical problems. I pay your attention to the definition no critical problems. This way or another, products might have problems. For some customers, this will be good. For some customers, it might be bad, but still there will be critical problems. Such product has the benefits which sufficiently overweight the problems. If a product has so many problems that they don't give any benefits, it makes no use in this product. Another feature is that further improvements would be more harmful than helpful. This is the stage at which we have to stop if we come across such understanding, because all other actions will be useless. How can we make such a product? We are all different, our companies are different, and our products are different. And if something is good for me, it doesn't mean that it's good for you. How do we define what quality will be sufficient for a particular product? First, we have to assess the benefits of the project, problems, and current product quality. Also, we have to make a plan on project improvement. This sounds simple, however, the devil is in the detail. We QA specialists sometimes do not have the required knowledge and authority to be able to assess and propose an action plan and turn this action plan into life. We have to talk. We can't do without talking. Maybe it's quite okay for the developers, but for QA testers, it's important to ask. But who do we ask? First of all, we ask our users. They know what they want. They are the first source of information for us. So sometimes it is just not possible. In my project, this is an almost unrealistic case for a QA specialist to talk to a real end user. The next person who we should really ask is a decision maker. This could be a committee or a single person. It depends on the project role speed, but we should speak to a decision maker, to the people who take decisions, who set up the testing budget and tools that will be purchased or won't be purchased for you to perform the testing. So you have to live with this. These are the people who you're dependent on and whose decisions affects on what you could do. Next people who should ask is your team, but they will not tell you what they know unless asked. And the most important person on the list is you. You're a wonderful specialist. You know how to ensure quality. You know how the product performs because you're fiddling with your product. You can think, you can analyze, and your intuition will tell you best what to do next because you have the experience. I'd like to give you a magic algorithm or a magic set of tools how to do this in the best way and how to make everyone happy. But the more I work in this field, the more I understand that such algorithm is simply non-existent. But good news is that there are many other smaller tools and there are other ways which can help you to develop your own approach, your own algorithm. Let's remember that we are all different, that our projects are different, and let's not think that if something worked in the last project, it will work in the current one. The first tool is to focus on problems. All our books, methodology tell us that we have to start from scratch. First, we study the requirements and build our test plans against the requirements, as well as further tests. A concept of good enough quality tells us that we first have to think about the problems that we can face. Then we better understand what is most important in the current stage. Of course, it's easy just to put the equivalent classes on the dashboard, but most of these tests turn out to be useless in the end. At the beginning of our career, it may work, but we are quite mature, grown-up specialists, and we have to better think. Next point, which I'd like to tell you about, is related to my interest in psychology. There's a psychological trick how to fight your own fears. First, we have to admit that we're afraid of something. Once we defined our fear, we analyze what exactly we are afraid of. After that, we have to think what will be the gravest outcomes if the thing that we are afraid of will happen. Based on such a scenario, we build our further behavior and we try to mitigate the consequences. This helps us to calm down and not to be afraid. After that, we're going even deeper and we're trying to find risk-based thinking techniques or risk management techniques. The techniques is very much the same. First, the risks should be identified, classified against the level. We need to evaluate what may go wrong and how this risk will affect our company's performance and our actions. Also, we have to assess the probability and develop risk mitigation plan. This plan can include various activities, including simply not taking the risk into account. If we do all this, we are prepared for what might happen. We are no longer thinking about the risks that may occur. But if each of you remembers their own personal experience and stories, you may say that most of the defects that come from production are caused by negative cases. I mean, caused by something that we had not done when we were thinking of what might have gone wrong. Human nature is characterized by fear of problems. When our managers come and tell there's a problem, there is a history around the team. This is all okay, we are all people, we are all human beings, but since we are the specialists in quality assurance, every problem is a great finding, is the source of information. It's a wonderful source of information of something that may go wrong and
и пофиксить до того, как это случилось. То есть если вы уже сейчас
happens.
в следующем
If you run out of testers in the next release, this is great news. At least you shouldn't withhold that. And there are different techniques to dissect causes of problems. One of them is root cause analysis. All I can recommend is try out all of them, everything that you can find, and select the one that you like the most, the one that works for you, which helps identify the cause, the reason that led to a problem. There are millions of problems that projects can encounter, and most of the time they're not about bugs or defects. They're mostly about wrong team dynamic or team-to-team issues, and all of that falls under the root cause analysis, RCA. The method I'd like to pitch is very simple to understand. Why? 5 whys. You ask 5 whys to get to the bottom of what caused the problem. This is highly irritating when someone comes to you and starts bombarding you with those whys. But actually, when it becomes second nature, it's very good. For example, you receive task A for testing. You know that in the backlog you have task B that comes first on the list of sequencing. If you do A first, you will have to redo B. But as a responsible tester, you can start testing immediately without asking questions, or you could go around asking people why. And this way, you will avoid spending unnecessary time. Perhaps a task is just a proof of concept. Your team, your bosses want to test something quickly and forget it. And there is always more than one ways to solve a task. And if you truly know the full picture, if you have complete understanding of why things as they are, you will be making the best of your time and the time of your team. Coming out of the previous tenet is a new concept, system thinking. What we're used to do is take a big task, divvy it up into chunks of information, and we're so used to splitting things up that we forget about the big picture. If there is a large project, a lot of small teams, and none of them are in the know about what other teams do. I remember when two teams were doing the same thing, and then it raised such a ruckus. So, what does system thinking tell you? It tells you to abandon micro level and to start seeing the picture, seeing the big picture. I'll give you an example from experience. Let's say there is a low performing team and it has to be resolved. The first solution that comes to mind is let's hire more testers. Awesome. But we forget that hiring process takes time if you want to get the right people. Our project is such so that it takes at least 2 months for new recruits to be inured or initiated. And initially, it's a chaotic situation, and that only hurts the performance of the team in the first place. So, when we look at it, we realize that performance issue is temporary because there's a new customer who needs to be satisfied quickly, and half of the team is still on vacation. So, it's not about system failure. We don't need to demand extra budget or make some extra moves. Following up on the learning, the best thing you can do is self-improve. Do self-learning. There is a great illustration that talks about 3 levels or 3 loops of learning. Those who are here in the conference, we are definitely in the first loop. So we do something, we take steps to be in a situation to ensure or support current tasks. The next loop, the next circle is how to develop your career. Still next is more global one. So I motivate you to target the third loop, the third circle, and go even beyond that. In the current situation, only those who are not hung up on their domain are winners. I shared examples from psychology with you. As soon as you start opening your mind and start painting outside the box, you start gaining knowledge that may have little to do with your work, but you can use it here and now. Who had statistics in university as a course, and who liked statistics? You see, what if I tell you that without statistics you will not be able to do quality work? Because it means collecting matrices, analyzing matrices, and if we don't know how statistics works, we are bound to make mistakes. If we do it in a half-assed fashion, then we will make all the wrong decisions, we will miscollect data, and basically it will be money of the company thrown in the garbage bin. And finally, for today, it's a trick from psychology or Buddhism to be here and now. It looks like something out of this world. We don't belong here, but what it tells you is to stay current, stay in the current context. Your previous experiences are all important. This is the biggest treasure that you have. Based on previous experience, you perform your tasks and do your jobs, but don't be hung up on it. Don't get obsessive about it because it's a crime. What you work on now is different, and remember that you are here and you are now. And it's up to you to make the current project a success. There was a good example that I tried to remember, but oh, here it comes. There is a module which is dated and it needs rewriting. Money was found, Someone is working on the rewrite, but the current team knows that it will be substituted at some point. Let's not do anything. It's great, but will a new project appear? Will it have enough budget? But our users, current users, are already using this project. So let's remember about being here and now, because current implementation of the module makes you make right choices in favor of the current tests, as opposing to postponing it. I think that's all I have. I'd like to finish off with a capper. Think before you act. However useless it may sound, there is no silver bullet, but there are still a bunch of techniques and methods that you may use in your work. Stop to think for a second why you do what you do, and then you'll make the right choice here and now. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for the talk. That was cool, brief, and to the point. I think what you're pushing us to do is that QA step outside of scope of QA. It's more like a mix of QA and PPM. It's like as dev, what PM is doing. This is all great, but you need to provide a side note that not each organization can afford to do it, considering its level of development. Perhaps it applies more to more mature management levels. Because if a tester will go to product owners or decision makers, most likely they will tell him to take a hike. Maybe they won't tell him to take a hike. What I'm trying to say is that it's fantastic that you work in the company that you work for, but you know, trying is the only way to find out. To taste a pudding, you need to try it first. I mean, where is the boundary of QA? No one knows, but no one prohibits you to step outside of the QA. I'm trying to step outside of QA. Thank you. Hi, thanks for the talk. Very interesting. Can we say roughly that 90% of the quality cross-section can come from system users? Say again. Let's say we have users of the system and we ask why questions to them, and then we receive 90% of information about the quality of the system. You think so? Yeah, I think that's the case. At any rate, what we do is for the benefit of the users. They decide if it's good quality or not. So based on their answers to our why questions, we decide to go into architecture or not. Thank you. Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'd like to revisit overpriced next VAC. How do you define the balance when the next bug costs too much and when to draw the line? Are you at that point already, and what techniques did you utilize? Unfortunately, I have been away from testing for a long time. It's just my team and myself agreed. How expensive or costly it would be for a company if we miss a bug for the company, for the customer. We may spend several days looking for it, and it will say an arm and a leg for our customer. I remember one case where we transformed documents, converted document, and one decimal point missed, and it affected the payment. It resulted in losses of money. So our focus was to find anything we could, because we don't know how it affected our users, simply because we do not have access to them. So our strategy was to locate anything that we could, and it was justifiable because we saved money for the customer and for ourselves. It's you need to know the price tag if you miss bugs. So what should you keep in mind? Your customer. Yeah, I think customer is always a priority. I mean, you may be looking for bug in UI, but your user doesn't care. Why would you waste time on that? Thank you for your question. Hi, thank you for your presentation. Here's a question I have. In QA, we should be orientated by customers. On the other hand, we have a product that is uh, being developed, and we don't yet know the target audience. No one to ask or get feedback from. What do you think? We have a virtual customer who might be our cash cow in the future. How can we put ourselves in their shoes? Different ways to go. First of all, if you do something similar to what is already available on the market, you could talk to the actual users who may miss something. You can ask them, or you can ask yourself. If this is your product, just put yourself in the shoes of the customer. What's wrong with it? What benefits does it bring? This is completely new. For this, you use MVP. You do several iterations. So at any rate, at some point, we become experts who make decisions. So something we try to avoid, we never really avoid that. MVP is something that exists just for that purpose. Users didn't like that, and we dropped this. We modified, tweaked it a little, asked customer again, and finally you arrive or land the customer that you need, and then you keep talking to them. Yep, got it. We have time for one final question. There's a girl over there. She raised her hand first. I saw it. Hi, thank you for your very exciting presentation. Here's my question. What are the key criteria for QA preparedness to shifting, prepared for shifting to new system thinking? Maybe it's a new set of skills or something. As soon as someone starts thinking about system thinking, then you are ready. I mean, I have no criteria. It's all about self-learning, self-development. If you are willing to continue to prowl ahead, it's a sign that you are ready for it. It's not like architectural design or something. This is a completely human approach. What if the customer demands new approach to testing? Ask the customer why. Why? Ask him, the customer, five wives. I remember one time my team was demanded to reduce the number of testers from 3 to 1. And it was 1 to 1 ratio in the team. I mean, you can freak out and obey the bosses, but I told them no. I'm gonna keep the status quo. I knew the reality behind that decision, and I found a way to keep everyone happy. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.